The spires of Trivix 9 shimmered like obsidian glass against the dying light of the collapsed star it orbited. A testament to unity, diplomacy, and old lies, the Galactic Council station loomed like a cathedral of politics, grand, cold, and detached from grief. Ambassador Juno Adrian Cross stepped from the docking ramp onto the polished obsidian floor of the Council's transit hall, flanked by 2 aides. They wore no armor, carried no weapons. Just the seal of Earth's Interstellar Directorate pinned to Juno's breast, gold over black, sharp as a blade. Eyes followed them. Whispers followed the eyes. A human envoy invoking Article 7.4 was unprecedented. That clause, deep within the Council's ancient charter, was reserved for sovereign grievances, acts of war. Cross walked without flinching. The lift to the Council Assembly was soundless, but Juno's mind roared. Not with anger, but memory. 3 weeks earlier, Luna Prime. There had been music in the air, children chasing each other through the corridor gardens, engineers laughing in the observation dome. A station with nearly 9 million citizens. Scientists, artists, families. The security feed showed it clearly. First came the power dip. Then, plasma flashes and atmospheric control. 17 seconds later, the south hemisphere of the colony simply ceased to exist. No warning. No claim of responsibility. No survivors. A frozen frame burned in Juno's mind, a little girl reaching for a floating toy. Her eyes locked on something just out of view. And then light. Blinding, clinical, final. Back in the present, the lift doors opened to the Grand Assembly. A vast sphere, impossibly large, its walls glimmering with the constellations of every member species' homeworld. Gravity adjusted subtly with every step, matching each delegate's physiology. Juno entered the chamber, walking the long bridge toward Earth's assigned seat, a modest platform near the outer rim, far from the core powers. The silence that followed their approach was thicker than vacuum. At the chamber's center, the elevated council floor bustled with ancient power, the scaled elders of the Zarnathi Imperium, the fluid-bodied emissaries of the Venery Conclave, the crystalline wisdom-bearers of the Gulan Confederacy. Cross stood still, watching, not bowing. Beside Earth's seat, the Arhax war leader Nornas inclined his head. Not friendly. Respectful. Then came the voice of the council speaker, her tones projected through layered translation fields. Human Envoy. Earth requests to speak under Article 7.4. Is this confirmed? Cross's voice echoed, precise and measured. Confirmed. The chamber stirred. Conversations halted. Old eyes turned. You may proceed. Juno stepped onto the central platform, looking out at the amphitheater of 1,000 species. Some watched with curiosity. Others with disdain. Many with doubt. I am Juno Adrian Cross, diplomatic representative of the Terran Directorate, authorized to speak for humanity. A pause. No dramatics. Just space to breathe. 3 weeks ago, our outer lunar colony, Luna Prime, was annihilated. 9 million civilians. Gone in less than a minute. Whispers rose like wind. The word annihilated carried weight even here. We scoured the wreckage. Rebuilt telemetry fragments. Pulled remnants from molten stone. The evidence is irrefutable. Cross gestured. A hologram flickered to life, a rotating piece of alloy, scorched and twisted, with markings glowing faintly beneath. A silence followed, deeper than the last. Zarnathi military-grade plasma coil housing. Serial configuration matches restricted fleet tech. Your embargoes don't permit this outside your own space. The delegate from the Venery tilted her head, eyes flickering. She was a telepath, trained in diplomatic truth sensing. The weapon signature is genuine, she murmured. The grief carried in the forensic echo is pure. A voice cut through the chamber like venom. Circumstantial. All eyes turned to Archon Velzereth, leader of the Zarnathi delegation. Towering, radiant in ceremonial armor, his voice held amusement behind polished menace. You bring a scrap of metal and accuse an empire? Do humans always leap to conclusions when frightened? Juno didn't flinch. We bring a pattern of evidence. Attack vector analysis. Energy dispersion graphs. Weapon architecture. Every line points one way. And yet, Velzareth purred. No fleet logs show any of our vessels near your pathetic outpost. No declaration of hostility. Could it be, perhaps, internal sabotage? A human error? Cross stepped closer. The lights dimmed as a new image took form, the final broadcast from Luna Prime. A technician's voice. These ships, wait, they're cloaked. Static. Then fire. Your fleets are the only ones in this quadrant with cloaking plasma drives of this configuration. Our intelligence confirms as much. The attack was deliberate. Precise. Meant to send a message. Velzaretha's mask of politeness cracked. And what message, Ambassador Cross, do you think we would send to you? Juno's voice lowered, steady as gravity. You attacked our home? A pause. No translation field could soften the edges of those words. The entire chamber froze. Not one breath. Not one sound. Even the Venery closed their eyes in dread. Juno's next words fell like judgment. We joined this council to build peace. We accepted minor status. We listened. Learned. Contributed. We buried our pride, held our grief in silence. But not now. Not after Luna. The Gulen observer stirred. And what do you seek, human? Revenge? Juno looked him dead in the eyes. No. We seek truth. And recognition. Because if this council will not give it, we'll take both. Alone if we must. Velzareth stood. This is a performance. An animal standing on two legs, learning to shout. Juno didn't look at him. We've been silent too long. Maybe you mistook that for obedience. The Speaker of the Council raised her hand. Enough. She glanced between the factions, shaken, uncertain, divided. A vote will be called. Not on guilt. On whether this accusation warrants investigation under interspecies code. The lights faded. As Juno turned to leave the platform, they passed Velzareth. His voice was low, mocking. You don't know what game you've started. Cross stopped. Just for a moment. Don't mistake restraint for weakness. You already made that mistake once. On the return ramp, aides waited silently. No words were needed. Above them, Trivix 9 shimmered with cold light. Below, Earth spun, scarred but unbroken. The galaxy had heard humanity speak. And for the first time, it listened. The chamber lights dimmed to a cold blue as Juno Adrian Cross stood once again at the center of the council assembly. The floor beneath their boots hummed faintly, a massive ring of gravitic metal suspended in air, spinning slowly in silence. The ambient hum of breathing, wings fluttering, and whispered translations dissolved as evidence filled the air around them. No preamble this time. Just facts. 3 independent analysts from the Terran Directorate, the Venery Conclave, and the Nurellan Technate verified this. Juno said, voice calm. Weapon energy signatures extracted from Luna Prime's soil show a unique phasing pattern, one used only in the Zarnathi's L-variant plasma arrays. Combat grade. Classified. A trio of holograms flickered in sequence, crater scans, spectral overlays, a side-by-side comparison with known Zarnathi fleet signatures. The room stayed still. Juno didn't press. Let silence do the work. Then the hologram shifted, showing a playback from a low-orbit drone above the moon during the attack. Only 6.3 seconds of footage survived. Just enough. First, darkness. Then, 3 bursts of concentrated light, blue-white, rapid pulses. Triangulated strikes. Perfect formation. Total destruction. The screen froze. Cross took one step forward. They didn't come to warn us. They didn't come to occupy. They came to erase. The speaker turned. Archon Velzareth, the floor recognizes you. Velzareth stood with deliberate slowness. Clad in ceremonial metalwork that shimmered like oiled shadow, he projected confidence with every movement. When he spoke, his voice rolled with polished contempt. The humans present a theory, not proof. Ancient forensic fragments, arbitrary associations, and now accusations against a sovereign power. We are flattered they think us capable of such precision. Laughter, brief, sharp, rang out from a few of the core species. Nervous. Uncertain. Velzareth continued. Council members, ask yourselves, what would we gain from this? Earth is irrelevant. Their moon, even more so. We have no cause. No motive. Juno responded without raising their voice. Only the guilty care about motive when evidence speaks. The Archon's brow lifted, lips curling faintly. Is that your Earth logic? Attack, then accuse? Juno activated a final display, intercepted transmissions from black market arms trades near the border of the Zarnathi sector, audio buried deep, distorted, but present. Trade logs, serial tags, void traffic routes. It wasn't conclusive, but it painted a pattern. Smuggled Zarnathi arms. Civilian massacres. Cloak strikes with no claimants. One thread links them all. Velzareth stepped forward slightly. His voice low but clear. You tread dangerously close to slander. And you're drifting toward confession, Juno said, eyes locked. The room turned cold. The Venery delegate rose from her fluid throne, blue skin pulsing in measured waves. Ambassador Cross. What does your world seek? Not blood, Juno replied. Recognition. Truth. Action. A full council investigation under interspecies war protocols. Our dead deserve that much. The Arhax war leader grunted, speaking for the first time. Our code states, one does not kill and walk away clean. If the humans bring truth, they must be heard. Velzaretha's composure cracked. You would take their word over mine? The word of a child species barely out of its gravity well? No, the Gulen observer said from his crystalline perch. We take their facts. Velzaretha's eyes flicked toward the speaker. You entertain this farce? You risk the stability of the council on the bark of an animal that's only just learned to speak? Juno didn't react. Instead, they spoke plainly. You attacked our home? The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. They hung in the air like a sharpened blade. No translation necessary. Even those without auditory senses felt it. Juno continued, voice quiet. We came here in good faith. We contributed. We adapted. We deferred. But we will not be silent while our dead go unnamed. A ripple of stillness spread across the chamber. Delegates shifted. Even the speaker remained silent. I stood over the crater where Luna Prime's education dome once stood, Juno said. I saw melted playgrounds, fragments of books. Bodies too burned to identify. Civilians. Scientists. Children. You can pretend that's beneath your concern. But we don't forget. Ever. Velzaretha's voice dropped to a growl. This is emotional manipulation. No, Juno replied. This is testimony. The Gulen leaned forward, violet light pulsing across his crystalline surface. I move that we place the Zarnathi under investigatory review. Based on the presented data, a neutral inquiry is justified. Chaos erupted. Half the chamber rose in protest. Delegates shouted over one another. Some in support, others in outrage. The speaker struck her staff twice, soundlessly bringing the room to order. Councilors, she said firmly, the proposal stands. We must vote. Velzareth turned slowly, his voice steel. If this council permits this insult to stand, it undermines every pillar of our agreement. We do not bend to baseless claims. We didn't bend either, Juno said. We burned. The vote began. One by one, each species cast their stance through the silent vote circuitry embedded in their seats. Colors flickered, blue for approve, red for deny, silver for abstain. The screen filled in slowly. Tension thickened. The Venery voted yes. So did the Arhax. The Gulen. Minor Outer Rim species followed suit. Velzareth watched, expression unreadable. The Zarnathi bloc voted no, as expected. So did their allies, the Krell, the Myrene, the Lofari Syndicate. But it wasn't enough. The final tally shimmered into place. Yes, 58%. No, 37%. Abstain, 5%. The speaker raised her voice. The motion passes. An investigation will proceed. The Zarnathi Imperium is hereby placed under formal council scrutiny. Gasps rippled. Velzareth turned to Juno, venom barely hidden beneath his smile. This is far from over, Ambassador. Cross met his gaze. It never really began, until now. The chamber fell into a kind of stunned silence. The kind that only comes when power shifts and everyone feels it. Juno turned and walked from the platform. One aide leaned close as they descended the stairs. You did it. No, Juno murmured. We opened the door. What comes through it, that's still unknown. Outside the council chamber, the stars remained unmoved. But somewhere, light was bending. Power shifting. Eyes turning toward Earth not with pity, but with caution. Juno Adrian Cross stood at the edge of the observation deck, overlooking the vast heart of Trivix 9. The station's inner rotation chamber, where gravity behaved like a polite illusion, shimmered with transport lanes, drifting banners, and the motion of 1,000 species. Below, the galaxy spun on, seemingly indifferent. But the council had changed. The vote had passed. The Zarnathi were under scrutiny. Earth was no longer silent. Footsteps approached. Slow. Metallic. Arhax's war leader Norna stopped beside Juno, his heavy armor clicking softly as he moved. You forced the council to see, he said. Juno didn't turn. They saw because they had no choice. Norna's gave a low, rumbling hum. The council rarely acts out of principle. You made them afraid. That they understand. A silence settled. Then Norna's added, We will remember your stance. The Arthaks respect those who do not kneel. He left without waiting for a reply. Later, inside the secured chambers of the human delegation, Juno sat alone. Screens hovered around them, reports, messages, signals from Earth. Most were bureaucratic noise, approval updates, news coverage, diplomatic chatter. But one message stood out. Encrypted urgent. Sender, Director Kaelin Voss. Subject, political fluctuation, caution required. Admiral Hallberg is pushing for a military show of strength. Some factions on Earth are calling for retaliation, strikes on suspected Zarnathi outposts. They want blood, not process. You need to hold the line. Juno's hand hovered over the reply pad for a long time before they finally typed. Not yet. We win with truth. If this crumbles into vengeance, we lose everything. They sent the message and closed the feed. The next day, the council convened for formal proceedings. The speaker's platform floated in the center, surrounded by clusters of species blocks. The Zarnathi sat in rigid silence, their once proud delegation now watched from all sides. Velzareth didn't speak. His jaw remained clenched, hands folded tightly. The council began assigning members for the investigative tribunal. A Venery empath, a Gulan data miner, and 2 delegates from outer systems were selected, neutral, precise, incorruptible. The kind of people who didn't care for empire or ego. Juno remained seated throughout, silent but alert. During a recess, the Venery delegate approached. You carry many weights, she said, her voice soft and resonant. Too many, Juno replied. You did not speak of vengeance. That is rare. Juno nodded. I lost friends on Luna. Family. But rage is a spark. Truth is fire. She regarded them with her emotion sense, head tilting. And fire can burn through even the coldest stone. That's what terrifies them. By day's end, the motion was sealed. The Zarnathi Imperium, for the first time in recorded council history, had been formally placed under multi-species investigation for an unprovoked assault. Diplomatic immunity was suspended. Sanctions prepared. Trade routes frozen. Power realigned. In the quiet corridors behind the chamber, Velzareth finally approached Juno. No attendance. No theater. You've made enemies, he said flatly. I know. His voice lowered, sharp as glass. Your world is young. You don't understand how long this game is, or how deep its roots go. Juno met his gaze. You thought we were just learning to speak, but you forgot we learned by listening. Velzereth stepped closer. You may have won this round, but you've drawn the eye of things older and hungrier than you can imagine. You've marked your species. We already bear the mark, Juno said. It's called loss. For a moment, the Archon didn't move. Then he turned and vanished into the shadows of the corridor. Hours later, Juno stood on the outbound deck of the Earth diplomatic vessel Unity's Reach. It would be days before they reached Sol, but the silence here felt cleaner. An aide joined them, Nadia Gray, young, sharp-eyed, loyal since the early missions. You're quiet, she said. Thinking. We did it, you know. No one thought we could. Juno looked out at the stars. We didn't win anything. We just refused to lose. She folded her arms. The vote passed. The council saw the truth. Juno shook their head. They saw pressure. They felt fire. But that's enough, for now. A brief silence passed. Then Nadia asked, What happens if they find nothing? Or worse, if they bury it? Juno didn't answer immediately. Then we make it louder. A private message pinged. Juno opened it. From the Venery delegate. You did not win with force. You won with refusal. That is strength. Another message came seconds later, from the Arhax war leader. If they strike again, we stand beside you. And then a final one. Anonymous. No origin trace. Just 5 words. You are not alone anymore. Juno smiled. Just slightly. As Unity's Reach pulled away from Trivix 9, Earth's sun glinted faintly on the hull. The stars ahead were the same. But behind them, the galaxy had shifted. For the first time, Earth had spoken without begging. Had stood without shaking. Had accused without stuttering. And the galaxy had listened. Juno closed their eyes and whispered a name, one among many, one of the 9 million lost. We remember.